The K-pop industry is dominated by girl groups these days, evident in music charts and concert ticket sales, in performance lineups at university festivals, and their global fan base. On the other hand, the boy group era seems to be in a stagnant phase. So what can we make of this shift? To delve into this issue, we now connect to Bernie Cho, president of DFSB Kollective. Hello, Bernie.
Hello, Bernie.
No, it's good to be back from LA.
Great to have you on the show. Now, let's start with this rising dominance of girl power in the K-pop market. Do you feel it happening around you, and in what way?
Well, again, I think this is really an issue of, is it perception or is it reality? And from a perception standpoint, it definitely feels like the women of girl bands seem to be grabbing more headlines, more chart success, more buzz, more hype and whatnot. But when we look at the data and when we analyze the data, it turns out the perception is very much reality. If we look at two metrics out there, one is the local charts, specifically the circle charts. When we look at the top 20 songs of last year, it turns out roughly 65% of the top 20 songs of last year were from female artists, be it solo, be it band, or be it solo efforts of band members. When we look at Spotify and we look at their Wrapped 2024 biggest songs of the year, it turns out 50% of the top 10 or top 20 songs were also from female artists. So, for the many years we've seen boy bands and male artists dominate, the women have really pulled up and come out strong. So at the very least, half, if not more, of the biggest and best songs of 2024, and it seems like the momentum is rolling strong through 2025. It seems like the girls are on top. The women are controlling the shots right now.
That's really interesting, and just by my observation as well, like boy groups used to have a bit of a bigger impact back in the past. I mean, obviously we have the BTS movement, we have the Big Bang movement, Super Junior, etc. Why do you think we are seeing this shift in popularity?
Well, I think when we talk about boy bands, we can't just look at them as sort of a group unit. As much as people want to sort of say or perhaps maybe dismiss or diss the fact that boy bands, may not be as dominant in terms of the headlines, we have to look sort of at a new iteration of boy bands, which is the subunits or the solo efforts of boy bands. If for whatever reason, some of them may have to go to the military or whatnot, if you add up the numbers and if you look at the chart success, it seems like there's almost a bit of a divide and conquer sort of strategy at play where, for instance, if we take, for example, BTS, yes, they were on hiatus and they're going to be, coming back soon. But during that hiatus, each and every one of those members did incredibly well as solo artists. And we add up those numbers and those chart rankings, I think it's safe to say they did as well or perhaps even better than when they were a band. And so I think what we're starting to see as sort of an evolution of K-pop is boy bands and girl bands will continue to exist, but extensions of that boy band and girl band success are manifesting themselves through subunits and through solo efforts. And so I think that boy bands, yes, might have taken a bit of a dip, but in terms of if we look at, more importantly, study and appreciate the solo efforts and the subunit efforts, boy bands are still very strong. It's just we're seeing them in different sort of iterations.
Very interesting. But maybe this has also got to do with the reason why we're seeing a dominance in girl groups. K-pop's main consumers are female, but I realize that boys, like males, seem to be listening more to girl groups, but females seem to be listening to both girl groups and boy groups. And it seemed that in many of those cases, they choose to purchase physical albums and also merch, what we refer to as gutsu here in Korea. So what's behind this passion of these female fans?
Well, it doesn't matter what industry or what sector. I got to say it's a fact. It's just that female consumers tend to spend more money and arguably are more stylish, savvier, and perhaps even smarter. They're very dedicated. They're very passionate fans when it comes to specifically music. And again, unlike male fans, it seems like their appeal is not only to their favorite boy bands and male artists, but also it applies to female artists and girl bands. bands. Now, what's really fascinating and interesting is how well K-pop does. Right now, if we look at the top 20 best-selling CDs in the world, over 80% of the best-selling CDs in the world were K-pop CDs. If we look at even the number one music market, the USA, the top-selling top 10 CDs in America were K-pop albums. And when we look at the analytics for merchandise, as you said, goods, it is a very good business. So much so that K-pop fans in the US spend more money, whether it be physical music formats such as CDs or LPs or even cassettes, but more importantly, merchandise. They spend more money than any other music genre fan in America. And so for fans, K-pop is not just about showing streaming success. The real dominance is a different type of CD, not compact disc, chart dominance vis-a-vis through physical formats and also merchandising.
Now, Bernie, I know that you are very well known, like you know your new debut groups, you're very well into the K-entertainment. So let's talk about those rookie girl groups that have come up this year. Is there any girl group that you have particular big expectations for?
Oh my goodness, you're asking me to step in a landmine answering that question. Look, I have to say, rather than naming specific bands, I think it's safe to say we need to really understand and more importantly, appreciate the brand power, the brand value that the top K-pop music companies in Korea have generated, so much so that any new band, be it boy band or girl band that they release, are highly likely to be coming to market with a built-in fan base even before they debut. So for instance, in addition to obviously talking about the Fab Four, HYBE, SM, JYP, and YG Entertainment, we also have to look at the sort of emerging up-and-coming management companies, whether they be Starship, P Nation, and also Black Label. And so when we look at these huge, big six companies, each and every one of them are coming out with new girl bands, and all of them seem to be coming out with relative degrees of success. Right now, it's become the new normal that right when these new girl bands are dropping, not only their first single or first music video, but the first EP or first album, their pre-orders are in the tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. And you don't see that kind of phenomena in other major music markets where debut bands are selling this many albums right out of the gates. And I think this really is a strong testament to not only the brand power of the companies they're coming from, but more importantly, the social media and the viral video power and influence that is in play with these new K-pop bands, because right when they hit the stage, right when they debut, they have a massive built-in fan base that's willing to push these acts and promote these acts so that right out of the gates, they're not just stars, but superstars.
It's quite interesting. And so we really touched upon the fact that these days the girl groups are becoming more dominant and the boy groups, though you said the subgroups are doing better, the soloists are doing better. Do you think that we'll see maybe one day the rise of boy groups again? Like, do you think that maybe will be another BTS era style of group, or what would be the prerequisite, you think?
Oh, again, you've asked me to step on another landmine, but I have to say though, credit where credit's due, as I think that in many ways, BTS and the current generation of boy bands have really elevated and evolved to the point where fans not only expect more, want more, but demand more. I think what we're going to start seeing is that with boy bands in particular, it's not just going to be good looking, good dancers with good vocals. I think there's going to be more of a premium on the artist, producer, singer, songwriter members of bands, so much so that if and when these bands need to go to the military, or more importantly, really flex and show off their true talents, it's become, sort of more the rule rather than the exception that artists go and pursue solo or subunit pursuits, not after the band breaks up, but during the height and the peak of band activities. And I think this really brings about a synergy effect. But we're starting to see more and more of nowadays in the K-pop boy band space is it's not just about pretty faces anymore. These boys, these men, they have talent, and they're showing off this talent vis-a-vis through their songwriting skills, their producer skills, and obviously their performance skills. So I think the level up of K-pop is happening, and I think in large part due to BTS, and I think we're going to start seeing more and more of these K-pop boy bands being less boy bands and really truly being recognized and more importantly respected as artists.
Well, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see more mixed groups, having groups where we have boys and girls together, because we didn't have much of that in the past years, I think. But regardless of the dominance, I think K-pop is still leveling up, as you said, Bernie. And thank you very much for your insights today. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you, Bernie.
Likewise, thank you.
And thank you, Walter. We're going to see you back on Wednesday after the presidential election.
Yes, I'll see you on Wednesday.